we were discussing these 5 things because we were thinking about like how to maybe building an online school or online program, and we have these like 5 steps, or not steps, but 5 key points of the curriculum, if we can call it curriculum, how we would like to educate.
Principles. No?
I don't think it's principles.
No?
I think it's more really like the framework that we would like to use in order to create the learning experience. And I'm talking about like the observation, which was like the consumption, then reflection, self-reflection, creation, and presentation. And I was thinking that it would be nice to go through the steps and just discuss it, what it means to us, and how do we think about it, and how could we apply it, and how we think it would contribute to having a better learning experience. Would you be up for it? Do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so then let's start with the first one, which is the observation. What does it mean to you? How do you think it could be used in education system? Because for us, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we have like the observation on the part of like consumption, like that's when you just observe and you take. So that might be a little bit like contradictory. Like why would you have it there in the learning system if you're saying like, okay, we want to create creators, we want to create people who are not consumers but creators. Why do you have like the consuming part in there?
I think about it again as a spectrum. It's not either consumer or creator, but not just consumer, but also creator. And so for me, the observation part is that you cannot actually create anything, I think, unless you, like, it's always some reaction to what I see in the world. So I get inspired by a game or by a movie, or I take things from a couple of different things and then combine them and like remix them. So the observational part, I think it's necessary, the breathe in moment, the like taking it in is important, and you cannot do without it. And for me, having it in the process, in the learning process, is just the like being aware that this is happening and not starting somewhere further in the process. Because you can definitely come in with already like, okay, I'm full, I observed, I'm inspired, I want to create this, and that's fine. But for somebody who maybe doesn't know what to do, I think it's useful to talk about what observing even includes, how to be aware, what to pay attention to, and have the conversation, ask the questions, talk about it, and learn that as a process.
That's a very nice way how to put it. I would say that for me, I think that observation or consuming material, and I think to tie it down to our topic, like consuming any screens, like watching videos, watching movies, series, playing games, just passively playing games, I think it just goes back to the natural way how we learn. I think before we start to speak and walk, you have like what you can do as a baby. You can observe. You observe, and then you want to recreate it. So I think again, like the reason why we struggle so much with screen time, I think it's very primal. And I don't think that the issue is the screen time or the screen itself. I think that we have designed systems in which you have this infinite loops that do not let you like get out of the space to process what you have learned and then try to recreate it. Because I think that you learn by observing someone else, and then you want to recreate it. That's the thing. You get inspired. That's why all of us like need inspiration, and we need to sometimes just switch the environment in which we are in order to be creative or to think about ideas, because I think that the part of observing or seeing is just such an important part of learning and being creative, which are very tied to one another, that it makes absolute total sense that as a child, if you're giving a space that is just created as one big observation park, then you will just want to be there because it's just so primal. And the issue, I don't think, is in the, as I said, like the issue is not in the observation phase or in the consuming phase itself. It's that you are designed in systems that let you just fall in the rabbit hole of infinite observation. So I think that the way I think about it, in order to create like super creators and people who are able to actually create things, you have to keep the observation alive. Like you have to have the flame of discovery. I want to just see things, understand things. I want to watch things. I want to see other people do stuff. I want to maybe play a game. And that's the step number one. Mm-hmm. But then there needs to be a step number 3, 4, 5, 2 as well. That follows afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One word that came up to me as you were saying that is like curated observation, mm-hmm. that you can be the curator mm-hmm. of your inputs. Mm-hmm. I think that's a skill you can learn to, like on Instagram is who you follow, mm-hmm. And then navigating, as you were saying, like, okay, there is an endless feed, so I have mm-hmm. to like limit myself mm-hmm. to something, either by time or whatever else, mm-hmm. or we have the autoplay mm-hmm. in YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so that, for kids, it's like, as you were saying, it's like primals. It's always another one. Mm-hmm. So we need to learn how to limit this and balance with like, okay, now I want to create actually something. Yeah.
I think that's very nice segue to another point, to the second point, which is self-reflection. Mm-hmm. And I really like how you talk about like curating taste, which I think is the same thing as like just being able to curate the
influences.
Yeah, the influences and the observation time. Can you talk a little bit about it? Like why it's so important to have like self-reflection, and not just why it is important, but what does it mean? What does it mean? What would that mean in, for example, for a gamer?
I think about self-reflection as the ultimate learning mechanism. Like mm-hmm. without it, I don't actually know what I want to do. I don't know who I am. It's like the action reaction, being aware that it's happening mechanism. So I don't know, in any situation, whether learning is my goal, usually it's not my goal to mm-hmm. learn. It's more about doing something just because it's interesting. So self-reflection would be the ability to, okay, I try to make something and I fail at some point. Mm-hmm. So I can look back at it and like deconstruct what actually happened or why I lost interest at what point. And that just gives me the option to do it differently next time, mm-hmm. basically. And either somebody can help me with that before I can do this myself, so somebody can narrate for me what maybe was happening or ask me questions. So that's something you can help a student with or a child with or anybody with. But if you don't have the ability to self-reflect and the self-awareness, which I think is in the middle of it, very hard to learn at all, because then all you can do, which also pisses me off when that's how it works at school, is you have to always depend on external authority to tell you whether you succeeded or not, mm-hmm. which to me is not the point at all. Mm-hmm. Self-reflection is your ability to know whether you succeeded on your own terms and what the terms even are, mm-hmm. like being aware of what you want, what are your values. Yeah, so it's necessary. And so the step if we go back to the sequence, so if I observe, and you were saying earlier, there's so many influences these days. So at some point you have to stop observing, or it can be an ongoing process, but you have to create space to then self-reflect. Like for me personally, I can see that I have like in my life, it's like seasons where I consume a lot. Maybe I get into a podcast and just listen for 15 hours, like different things or some topic or some person or something. And then I have enough and I just chew on it. And maybe I like think about it. And then I have a week or 2 weeks or something where I basically don't listen to anything or don't read anything. And so maybe I write a little, I think about it, I talk about the book with somebody. And that to me is the self-reflection part. It's not necessary, doesn't have to be like crunchy writing and like hardcore reflecting. Sometimes it is, and that's useful to learn that. But sometimes it's just to let it, let it rest. What matters stays, what doesn't matter goes, and then you can work with it. And so it's like an important balance. So the observation is the in, and then the reflection is more like letting it go a little bit. I don't know. What does it mean for you?
I really like the idea that you also mentioned, which is the creative journal, like having not just like being more present in the observation phase, and also thinking about yourself in the context of what the thing is doing to you, and it doesn't have to be so deep. I think sometimes we feel that it has to be like extremely deep, like how this scene in a movie affect me, which I think can be a quite hard question for a lot of us. But then just asking yourself, like, what did I like and why? What did I didn't like and why? Yeah. And I think that's as we were talking about like curating taste, I think that would be a very nice way how to curate taste. It's just knowing, understanding, and even like tying it down to your values and discovering your values or discovering your taste or how it changes through times is so interesting. And I think it's so sad that we don't do it much more, like watching something and just thinking about it. And maybe we do. I just do think that it's more important now than ever to have it in there as an active work that we do. Like we put the energy into really thinking about what was the thing that why do I feel the way I feel after doing the activity, after playing the game, what I like about the game, what's the thing that I really like in the game, what I hate about the game, what I would do differently, which can be then a good inspiration for, other projects. Like when you move further, then you can just look into the creative journal and look at the things that maybe, I like that. This is one of the concepts and the components of the game that I like. So I'm just going, when I'm recreating the game, I can take the component in my way and tweak it a little bit because this is the part that I didn't like. So I'm not going to put it in there when I'm designing my game. And I think it's just so wonderful. And of course, like there's so many apps, so many ways, like you don't have to be journaling, writing, you can be dictating it into the phone or a dictaphone or whatever. There's so many ways how we can do it. It doesn't matter. It's just I think that it's so important to have it in there because it does help you understand yourself better, and B, it really helps you to process, as you said, the ideas that were there that maybe you weren't aware, and you let it like marinate and sink in within you.
Yeah.
Which leads me.
What's the next one?
The next one is reflection with the group. So it's not just about reflecting in my head.
Yeah.
It's moving to the shared realities.
Yeah, to me, maybe the core idea here is realizing, which it sounds basic when you say it, but I think it's, at least to me, it definitely took some time to realize that, is that people are different and it's okay. and it also is tied to the idea that there's not one right way to do things in the like open-ended problems, which creative projects definitely are. And it's much more about like looking for who you are, so what are your values and why something resonates with you but doesn't resonate with others, and just the dialogue, the talking about it is useful as a mechanism for this. So when we could see the same movie and somebody hates it and can explain why actually, and I loved it and I can explain why, and these realities can coexist and we just realize how we are different in an interesting way, and maybe we share so many other things, but this is the interesting like conversation we can have and like argue in a friendly way about like why it's actually like no, this is brilliant because so to me it's about that people are different. And that's all right, and that's actually valuable. Like you want people to be different. You don't want to have clones of each other. It would be boring.
Yeah, that's perfectly said.
Fourth one.
The fourth one is the actual creation, the actual part of creating things.
You start.
I start. Well, that's the fun part. That's the fun part, and for me, it's about like taking the steps that you had prior, like your input, what the screen that you, I don't know, the movie that you've seen, the game that you played, your diary or your self-reflection, and the shared experience that you have with others and how they do relate to whatever you have seen and how they extended your world, and then you take all of that and you create something yourself. So you think about the idea, and for me, as we have said already, it's just about the projects. Like you have your own project, you set up the project, you set up a thing that you would like to create and you make it real. But the fun part is that it's not about the goal. Like it's not about the finished part, it's about the process. And I think that's if we are able to create an environment in which here is a bunch of tools, we are going to help you. The tool is going to help you, we are going to help you, your peers are going to help you to like shape and create. And you also like even teaching the kids that sometimes the idea is not there. You think that you have the idea and then it changes and evolves and it just doesn't work, and it's okay, because I think that's one of the parts that are missing in the school system, because it seems like, as you said, like it seems like it's an closed-ended, you always know that you have to do 2 + 2, then it's 4, and it's always the same. But then when you're creating something, then you start somewhere and you think about it somehow, and then you get the inputs, and it doesn't even have to have other inputs. It's just you start seeing it, and then it changes throughout the time, like even during the process. And then if you don't have the ability to understand that it will change, then it gets frustrating. Like you feel like a failure all the time because I didn't finish anything. But that's not the case. You just took some idea and you're just changing and tweaking, and it really, and of course, sometimes the end goal and the process can be to finish the project as you had it in your mind. That's also a part of, being able to finish and know where it's done. I really liked Rick Rubin said it, that he is very bad at finishing, that he was writing a book, and during the book he realized that he's very bad at finishing. It was really easy for him to like start writing the book and having so much material, and then when it came to the part when you actually had to like chop it down and edit and just make it final, then it was very hard for him. And he said, like, I never liked working on deadlines, but then when it came to finishing, I had to give myself deadline, because I would endlessly edit because there was nothing that would stop me. So I think that sometimes even this experience is important, but it's about the experience much more than the project itself. But I think that the project and your own inspiration has to be the carrier of the experience. Like, you cannot create the experience without having having the set thing that the child wants to do on which you create the experience. It cannot be, reversed. You cannot be like teaching, finishing without the experience.
It needs to be like inner drive
Exactly.
to create, explore something through the process of creating. And it's definitely not linear. I think that's something we will have to, as we use this process, that it's not linear. I think it's like you go back and forth in the process, because maybe like the inspiration like fades for something, and you go back to like observation. And one thing that comes to mind, and I think can be easily frustrating, especially if you are a good observer, let's call it, like a skilled consumer. Like, you have a good taste, so you watch the best movie makers, and then you want to make the leap to create movies or anything, animations. So I think what's difficult is if your taste is better than your skill. It's very difficult, because you create something and you can tell that it sucks. And that's very difficult. And like, to overcome this, I think you need the group, like to see others who also make poor poor creations. Because otherwise it's just a full stop. Like, it's very hard to see your own mediocrity. And when I was learning, for example, to write years ago, I remember I spent like first 6 months writing every day for hours. I didn't publish anything because I could tell how bad it is. And I think it's a mistake. And what I needed basically was peers, like writers at a similar level, like different levels, but close to me. Somebody who's further along, somebody who's behind me, just starting. And it would help a lot. And actually, then when I moved to like graduated to actually like realizing that it will never be as good as I wish it for it to be, and it's a process, it's not about the outcomes so much, because I think also there you need to strike a balance here, because it is about the outcome. It's about the drive to make something a reality. It's like, oh, it would be so cool if this existed, and it's just, I want to make this happen. So it is about the outcome, but you have to accept that it will change probably. And so it's like this back and forth to me, it feels like. So you have this vision, and the vision shifts, and as you go there, and you go back maybe to like observe more and self-reflect, and it's like you go back and forth, and it shifts. So it's not like, again, it's not linear, it's not closed. It's not like, okay, if I do A, B, C, D, it's done, and then ta-da, it's there. Sometimes it might look like this, but usually, at least in my experience, it's not. So yeah, creation to me, even if from my experience, is a lot about overcoming the friction of not reaching your expectations, and like focusing on the process in so that you enable yourself to learn, basically, because you learn by doing things, by creating, and others can help you with that. And I view that in this phase, I view that as the most important thing, is just allowing ourselves to not be great all the time, and the creations not be great at all points, because that's also like, for me, for example, in writing, I think it's very useful to think in drafts. It's like, first draft is just getting it out. I had rules for myself where I was learning writing. It's like, no backspace. It's like, there's no editing. It's just one mindset, is just getting it out. It's just free flowing. And then it's like sitting in another chair, sometimes even like physically moving or something, whatever helps you. It's just the editing mindset is completely different. So I think having rules for yourself and finding those, because I think it needs to be different for everybody. Everybody needs something else. Somebody has struggles with finishing, somebody struggles with starting. And so you need different things, and being able to provide different inputs and different help to people. Because for example, I struggle with finishing more than with starting. I enjoy the first phase, and I especially enjoy I would call it like the shaping phase. So not necessarily even like the first ideas. I don't think I'm that creative in the sense of like coming up with super creative things. I usually get inspiration and ideas from elsewhere, and like then combine them or shape them in interesting ways. And what I enjoy the most is like putting them into like figuring out the structure. So when I write, it's like to me the most interesting part is like outlining the article and maybe like writing the main messages, and then I would be like I would love to like ship it further. And then when I have to like force myself a little bit and like use the drive to see the finished, to enjoy the fruits of the labor, I like go through the process and finish it, and then it's great. But I know the most I got from it was somewhere in the middle. It's like and it also relates to what I feel like my strongest suit is. It's like I feel like I'm good at the shaping part, not necessarily at the beginning, not necessarily at the ending part.
As you were talking, I was just thinking we're so different.
How are you different?
I think, as you explained it, then for me, the most interesting part is the beginning. I really like the beginning. I think I do have struggles with starting, but that's just my brain. Because when I start, I feel very happy. I feel very energized. But I'm learning about myself these days that I actually don't like doing mediocre ideas. And that's not, I don't think about like mediocre projects. I do feel that I have a lot of ideas. That's the bit, I am the very creative person. I have a very, very creative brain that generates a lot of ideas.
You do.
And then I actually am realizing that I have this, and I don't know yet it's more of an intuition. I don't know yet what's the concept. I don't have like a written rule that would tell me this idea will pass further to be actually like created, like brought to real world. But I am realizing that I know when I'm going to do something, when I have the feeling that deep inside of me, I feel like, that's brilliant. Like if I feel that that's brilliant, then I'm gonna do it. When I do have just these like good ideas, because I do have a lot of ideas, so I have a lot of ideas, and I do feel that some of the ideas they're good, but they're just not great. And I feel like, and I don't know if that's my brain understanding you will come up with something better, so it just gets tossed and not touched ever again, or it's more like that I have to get excited to do it. But I do feel now that I do need to have the feeling, I myself, I don't need other people. I myself to be convinced that the idea is brilliant. And it has to be like, I do like it. I have such different feeling, because sometimes I come and I can see it in myself. Like sometimes I come to you and I'm like, I have this idea. And then I tell it. And as I'm saying it, I feel like, that was weak. And then there are other times when I come and I'm like, I say it and I'm like, gosh, it's even better than it sounded in my head. It's like, it's great. And then when I feel like it's great, then I'm going to do it. But, and of course, that's why I don't fit in traditional environments, because how can you explain this to your boss who wants you to be every week doing things, you know, in a certain way.
Yeah.
So, but I do have this feeling that I do have to have this, like, the kick. And when I do have the kick, then it starts very quickly. Then I generate, I think I'm quite your opposite. I start very quickly, and then I have like a big down in the middle. Like the shaping phase is not easy for me. The shaping phase is like when you have to actually start making sense of it is when I struggle a bit. So it's like I usually procrastinate or I power through, or I come up with another idea, like the things that happen to me. But when I'm out of the shaping phase, then I get very excited about actually.
You can see the finish
Yeah,
line.
exactly. I can see the finish line, so I like want to push it out, that's when I'm happy.
We should learn how to combine it better.
Yeah, that's true.
So like in theory and even in practice sometimes I can see it. Like you mention something, or when we brainstorm or think about things, it's like you say something and I take it, and then we start, like I can do the shape phase, and I'm not as interested in the actual execution sometimes, which is a problem if you want to make it happen. But then you get excited. It's like when it's coming, and so you actually can, like, okay, now I'm not sleeping tonight because I'm so excited. I'm just gonna work on that. I don't work that way. We should learn to combine it better.
Yeah, to work together.
Because it feels so good when you have the collaboration, when it like clicks, and it's like, somebody loves doing what I
but I
don't like doing, or somebody is great at what I'm not great at. And I think we both can do the whole process because we've started and finished projects before. But it takes like 10x energy because the places where you're strong feel energizing, and the places where you're not feel draining. So sometimes it's very, very difficult, and you spend 95% of the energy on just overcoming the difficult parts. Whether if there was somebody who can fill the spots, it just flows much more naturally. Yeah, that's interesting. And that's also something I'm looking forward to exploring, is the collaborative projects with the kids. And finding the differences and how we work different. I think it's a great medium to learning about yourself as much as about others, because basically I think you learn about yourself from seeing how others are different.
Exactly.